Imagine a city where the air itself becomes a weapon. A foul stench creeps through the streets, making even the strongest retch. People lock themselves inside, but the smell seeps through the walls. This isn't just an unpleasant odor. This is a disaster that brought London to its knees. The summer of 1858, the year the Thames turned into a river of death. By the mid-19th century, London was the largest city in the world, home to more than 2 million people. But with rapid urban growth came a terrible problem: waste disposal. There was no proper sewage system, and for decades, human and industrial waste had been thrown directly into the River Thames. The same river that carried the filth of the city was also the primary source of drinking water for its residents. Disease was rampant, and outbreaks of cholera and typhoid fever killed thousands. Despite the horrific conditions, Victorian Londoners had little choice. Many believed in the outdated miasma theory, the idea that foul smells caused disease. Doctors and scientists had yet to fully accept the role of bacteria in spreading illness, so authorities focused not on water contamination, but on eliminating bad smells. In the summer of 1858, nature took a cruel turn. An intense heat wave baked the city for weeks, causing the river's water levels to drop. The exposed sewage and industrial sludge began to ferment under the scorching sun, creating a suffocating stench that engulfed the entire city. The newspapers of the time called it the Great Stink, and it wasn't an exaggeration. The foul odor was so intense that ordinary life became unbearable. Businesses shut down because customers couldn't stand to stay inside shops for long. Wealthy families fled the city, and even the poor, who had nowhere to go, desperately tried to escape indoors. But the worst impact was on Parliament itself. The Houses of Parliament, standing right next to the Thames, became a chamber of misery. Politicians tried to endure their sessions by soaking curtains in chloride of lime, a type of disinfectant, to mask the stench, but it was hopeless. Some suggested moving government meetings to the countryside, while others debated evacuating the city entirely. For years, officials had ignored demands for a new sewage system, but now, faced with an unbearable crisis, they could no longer delay. The Great Stink had forced their hand. With public pressure at its peak, the government turned to Joseph Bazalgette, a visionary civil engineer. He had spent years designing a modern underground sewer network, but until 1858, funding had always been denied. Now, there was no alternative. Bazalgette's plan was revolutionary. He proposed an extensive system of brick-lined tunnels that would transport waste far from the city, emptying it into the Thames far downstream. His design included more than 1,300 miles of underground sewers, capable of handling not just the current waste problem, but also future population growth. Construction began in 1859 and continued for nearly 2 decades. The result? London's sanitation system was transformed. Cholera outbreaks, which had repeatedly devastated the city, became far less common. The River Thames, while not immediately clean, began its slow recovery. Bazalgette's work laid the foundation for modern urban sanitation worldwide, proving that public health and infrastructure investments could save lives. Although the Great Stink of 1858 led to critical improvements, water pollution and sanitation issues still threaten cities today. Even in modern times, overpopulation, climate change, and aging infrastructure pose serious risks. For example, in recent years, London's Thames has once again struggled with pollution. To combat this, a new super sewer, known as the Thames Tideway Tunnel, is being built to prevent untreated sewage from overflowing into the river. History has shown that when cities neglect sanitation, disaster follows. The Great Stink was one of the most shocking crises in London's history, but it also led to one of the greatest engineering triumphs of the 19th century. Do you think modern cities are at risk of similar disasters? Let's discuss in the comments. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into history's filthiest mystery, don't forget to like, share, and check out our other videos on bizarre historical events.